So let's go with our my first artist of this season. I know him because he's a fellow Canadian like me, and I follow him since a while, and I always like the way he plays. So let's have a chat with him. Hey, Matt Babineau, how are you doing?
Eric, it's great to see you. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just mentioning off the record. I like your background of the snares you have.
Well, thank
So
you. I love gear. I love the sonic variety of having different drums. Also the collectability factor. And I thought this is a perfect backdrop to do a drum interview. I'm down here in my studio where I spend a lot of my time. And yeah, it's an honor to be on the show. I've watched the episodes. You have some great interviews, and I'm just glad to be part of it.
So well, welcome. And just following back, do you have any one of in all those snares? Are they all mostly collectible stuff, or you have your top three you use regularly? Like which one in these you can say I'm doing gigs with them? You know, like
Yeah, I mean, they're not. Some of them go further off the screen as well. There are more, but I mean, I do collect, but I try to use most of them either for recording or live. It depends, but I do have some go-to
yep.
drums for sure. I mean, I've been a Sonar artist for 7 years now,
Okay.
so I do use a lot of their snare drums, and a couple of the ones directly behind me in this row. These right over here are the ones that I use most. Sonar Artist Bronze. I have a Sonar Vintage that I use. Sonar Pure Canadian,
Yep.
SQ1. Those are typically my go-to for a lot of the live and recording that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and and like everybody, like every drummer or musician, we like for example, a guitar player can have like 10 guitars, drummer can have
Oh
like
yeah.
20 snares, whatever. Like like you said, go to is the same for me, and I think it's the same for the people that are watching the show. You don't need like those that because sometimes people will be like, I don't have the money to get all
No.
these snares, but the point is like you don't need, but it's fun if you want, and you have a sponsorship, so like an endorser, so it's different. But at the same time, the important thing is you're comfortable with one snare, and if you know your go-to snare, these are the most important. I'm exactly like you
Yeah.
have a bunch of snare, like around I don't know 40 something 50, but I always use normally I use like around 3 4 of them, and because I like
Yeah.
the tone of them. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool.
And then maybe every now and then for fun, try take something out different for a change. I like to do that. Not everything is Sonar. There are a lot of drums that I just have collected over,
Years,
30 years plus of
years, yeah.
playing. And I have the first snare drum that was given to me by my dad that I learned on. I still have that in my collection. So there's sentimental drums as well that have meaning that
Yep.
I keep that I don't necessarily play much anymore. But for recording and things like that, it's sometimes fun to experiment and try different things that don't normally play every day.
Totally.
Yeah.
Talking about that, you mentioned your dad giving you a snare. When did you started playing drum? Like you started in a young age, I know, but when was
Yeah,
that
I
like
started. I started when I was
fire
11.
starting?
Yeah,
11.
I started around like age 11,
Okay.
and I didn't necessarily want to become a drummer. I just wanted to. When I was young, I wanted to play in a band. I didn't care what it was going to be, a guitar or whatever, or a singer. However, drums were the instrument in my house, right? So that's what was there. So that's what I started, working on. And I got into playing in a band at a very young age. By age 13, I had my own band with my cousin who had learned guitar, and we started it from there. And by the time we were 15, 16 years old, we were playing in nightclubs underage, playing on the cover scene. Being it was a great part-time job through school. I didn't have to have the other jobs that everybody else did through the summer. I just played in clubs on weekends from age
That's it.
15, and I was hooked from the first time I played on stage. I knew that's what I want to do for the rest of my life in some capacity, and I have not stopped. I'm now 49 years old, and I haven't stopped doing it. And in fact, things are busier than they ever have been.
Yeah. Like,
Out of COVID, my music career is actually kind of taken off more. I have more drum students now. I'm playing more live shows than I did 3 years ago, even. It's bounced back stronger tn ever. So
wow, like
very
congratulations
encouraging.
for that.
Yeah.
It's good you mentioned that too, because you're from Ottawa, but you live in Ottawa. Are you from Ottawa, or you
I was born in Ottawa, but I grew up just 30 minutes west in a
oh, okay.
tiny little town called Arnprior, and that's just right now. It's almost a suburb of Ottawa.
Yeah.
But I lived in Southern Ontario through my college years, and I played on the college scene down there. Again, helping pay my way through school. I played in a band on the weekend, and playing the cover bar scene and things like that, while doing an original project as well, which of course didn't make any money at the time, but the artistic gratification was there. And then I came back to Ottawa in 2001, and I've been here now for the last 22 years,
Yeah.
and really just playing the Ottawa scene primarily. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point, because I really like Ottawa. I was there like last time, 2000 and summer 2021, and
Okay.
it went, yeah, I think it's that. And I really enjoy. The thing is, like, the scene grew up crazy now. Like, I mean, Ottawa 20 years even back when you arrived was not Ottawa now. It has so many action. The market downtown, there's street with
Oh
bars
yeah.
with live musician. It's amazing
Yes.
city. It's great, and you can drive around. You're not so far from a lot of cool cities. You can, take your car. So I think it's a good city, good growing city, and a good place for opportunities. So, and you
There's a
have good
lot of
stores,
for
like,
a city that's not that big. I mean, it's big enough, but it's not Montreal or Toronto. For a
like a
city the size
million.
it is, you'd be shocked how many musicians, not just drummers, can make a
Yep.
living without
Yep.
having to go too far out of Ottawa. There's a lot. If you're tapped into the right scene here, you can play music 3, 4, 5 days a week within an hour of the Ottawa area, doing covers and originals, to get your artistic gratification, but also pay the bills, playing, in the nightclubs for the university students and things like that. So that's what I've been doing. I don't tour very much. I have a family, I have children, and they're a little older now, but I like to be close to home when I can. And I
Yep.
don't usually play more than a couple of hours from here, and play. I mean, I'm playing 150 shows a year without touring,
It's a
so
lot.
it works very well for me. I like being home most nights when I can. And
Yeah.
I figured, it took me a lot of time to figure out how to make that work, but I'm kind of in my groove now where, I just keep really busy. I have students here as well, also virtually, that I teach. And between
Yep.
that and I'm as busy as I need to be as a working drummer. Mhm.
Yeah, and you just mentioned, like, your student. Beside the gear and all these things, are you really committed to, as a drummer, to learn new stuff all the time? Because there's drummer, or musician, they would say, okay, I know what I need to do, and I'm done. And or except they're gonna learn new song. But are you the kind of guy you like to dig into drum book, or like new things online, and practice those chops or those groove, whatever, to just grow up as a musician? Or you're more like, I'm doing my gigs as my family, so music is a fun part, but I'm good with it.
It's a bit more of the latter. I don't sit down and study a lot of things now, but as a teacher, I always like to have fresh ideas and material. So I'm constantly, especially on social media, Instagram, Facebook, following a lot of drummers and educators that I look up to. And you see
Yep.
what they post, and I draw ideas from that. And maybe there's a new thing that they've been working on that I really gravitate to, and I'll sit down and work on something. But I never deliberately put aside time to really. I don't have a lot of free time, to be honest, between teaching,
Yeah.
being a dad, playing gigs constantly, band practices, a social life of some sort. But what I do is I keep a practice pad in my living room, that's always sitting there with a set of sticks, because it's sort of an out of sight, out of mind mentality. When it's sitting there and I see it, every now and then I'll pull it out and I'll put it on the coffee table with some sticks. Maybe I'm watching a baseball game,
Yeah.
and I just kind of bang out some strokes, maybe go through some rudiments and things like stuff that maybe is a bit, work the weak hand a little bit more, or whatever it is, just to kind of keep on top of things. But I'm not at this stage now. I'm not digging in and trying to learn the coolest licks and sit down and spend hours on the drum kit.
Yep.
It's just not where I'm at right now. And maybe later on in life I'll be there again.
Yep.
But right now I'm just I'm on the road. I'm gigging. I like performing more so than sitting down and practicing my instrument.
Totally.
Uh, I like being on stage. I like being an entertainer. Just as much as playing the drums itself. I like being part of a band. I like the camaraderie of being with other musicians. And to be honest, to be on a drum set, and I got drum sets all around me, just right beside me here, and I do play them, but I don't just put hours in every day anymore. I used to when I was younger. That's how I got to where I am now. But nowadays, it's teaching and gigging for me. Yeah.
It's so true. When you get older, you don't have that freedom to spend like 8 hours on the drum set. It's a reality.
Yeah.
I remember long time ago. I think we're talking about
Absolutely.
2000
Sure. Would I
or
like to be a drummer? Would I like to be
yep,
faster and have more chops?
yep,
Sure. But at the end of the day, for the work that I'm doing, I feel like I've got what what I've put the time in, decades of playing.
yeah,
I'm kind of comfortable with the work that I'm doing and the people who are hiring me. I seem to, I get the job done to everybody's. I had a recording session yesterday, been the first one in a while. It was off site, and the song I walked in, I hadn't heard the song yet. Right? It was just sort of it was the way it came together. Yeah, I'd worked with this guy before. Come on in, we'll just listen. And there was a part on the bridge that it really required double bass drum. It was a hard rock song. And I
okay,
hadn't even hooked up a double pedal in a while, but I had brought it. So I hooked it up, and it took me probably 20 takes to get this 4-bar section that had 2 different double bass drum parts, because I hadn't practiced double bass in so long. I was actually, shaking off the rust in the middle of the recording session till I finally, oh yeah, this is how I play double bass drum again. And then it got good. But it took me 25 minutes to just get this part down that wasn't that difficult to do. It's just I hadn't set up the left foot was feeling a little lazy, so
yep.
it's just kind of interesting. I don't sit down and practice these things, but it did come back to me, luckily.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a good reality check because for the double bass drum, for example, because it depends on what kind of style you do. But normally, if it's like is your band, you do your own composition, is a rock metal, you will have probably some of those, and it's perfect. But when you do the cover band or pop music, like in bars, restaurant,
Yeah.
corporative shows, and all that, we're talking about 2%. You're
Mhm.
gonna have to use that in a point. It's very rare. We don't use is I have one in all my setup, and I probably don't touch them in shows. I never use them in a normal show. Even for endings, I don't use them. So it's maybe one time, like I said. So I understand your point, Crazy. And when you said rusty, you're a bit rusty, and it's been a long time, and you have less freedom. Same for me, same for a lot of people. Use the time you have right now for the
Yeah.
people listening. If you're a young blood, you're practicing drum, or you have that freedom, do it right now. Because when you be older,
Oh yeah.
you won't have that freedom to practice on your kit all the time. It's a reality.
This is exactly what I tell my students. If they, especially kids who, despite what they think, oh, I'm too busy. I didn't have time to practice this week, right? And
Mhm.
I tell them, well, if you don't have time to practice now, just wait till you go to college. Wait till you have a house. Wait till you have a family. Wait till you have responsibilities. You will have very little time. Make the time now. If you love the instrument, right? Put
Totally.
down the video games. You don't need to play video games 8 hours a day. Play an
Oh
hour
no.
of drums a day. That's all you need. You don't have to be practicing for 8 hours a day. If you practice the right things, an hour a day
Hmm.
is a lot if you're doing it regularly.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And
Or
I try to motivate my students that way and make it attainable. I don't tell them, you have to practice. Like when I was young, I practiced 3, 4, 5 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week because it's all I wanted to do. Right. I grew up in the country. There weren't video games and internet and things like that to distract from, and Netflix and
yeah,
everything else. Now there's all these distractions, right?
yep,
But the reality is you can still put the time aside and you have all these resources to learn now. You can go on YouTube and watch breakdowns of songs from your favorite drummers, and you have things like Drumfills Kafé. You have even TikTok and things like that. You can watch drummers now and learn so much. The stuff I didn't have when I was a kid growing up. If I had that
me
today,
neither.
I think I would be 5, 10 times as good a drummer as I am now. You know, so
It's like accessibility to the information and the knowledge and all everything important as a
it's
musician.
huge.
So
Yeah, it's huge today. And I tell my students, don't take that for granted. I may
oh
be
no,
older. I remember the days when that wasn't available. And if I wanted to
yep,
learn a song, I had to go to the store and buy the album to learn
yes,
that one song.
yep,
So now
totally.
you just go on Spotify or YouTube and you got a full drum tutorial of how to do everything. So take advantage of that.
Totally. I remember one guy I knew back in time, in college time. He has a few drum VHS cassette of drummer, and he has the box with the Terry Bozzio. I think it was like, I would say something wrong, maybe 3 tape cassette on that box or 4. It was a big thing, and he was renting is the VHS box $10 per week to watch it. So it's an example how it was at the time, and
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
so it's a funny fact, like you have to go with in a VHS a place with a VHS player, take that time to put it in the machine and watch it, and you can, it was completely different story, but it's perfect. I mean, it was at that time was the best way to do it. Or television
Oh
has
yeah.
good. Uh, I remember CBC, or even in Quebec, like Radio Quebec, we had like on TV, we had like jazz festival running from past season Montreal Jazz Festival or from Montreux or different jazz fest, and I was able to watch great drummer like Mike Stern with Dennis and stuff like that. So it's but you have to wait in front of the television and expect that moment. It's not,
Oh
you
yeah.
cannot forward or it's done. Is that moment is unique at that time. So it's funny.
That's it. I still have some VHS. I have a Steve Gadd and a Jeff Porcaro
Yeah.
VHS tapes, the instructional video, and I got a whole bunch of DVDs that are probably worth nothing now. But that's how I would put stuff on. In the 1990s and things like that, you'd go to the store. The new Steve Smith is out, and you'd go buy it for
Yeah.
$60 and put it on, and you would watch everything and take notes and pay attention. But now you just go, you click a button on your computer, everything is there for you,
And that's
right?
it.
So,
Yeah. So let's keep going because time flies, and I have a
oh
few
yeah,
other
of course, of
questions.
course.
Yeah. So you do a lot of cover band. You play with a lot of project. I just saw you were like in a Fleetwood Mac tribute.
Yes.
How that came from? Like, did you start that project, or is you've been invited to play in this project, or?
That project started as an accident
Okay.
it was around 8 years ago. There were some friends of mine who were doing, they wanted to do, uh, form a project that would do sort of like a classic album presentation. So the idea was to do, they were doing the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album, which
Okay.
was a
Yeah.
huge,
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
biggest
It's
albums
yeah.
ever. And
Yep.
so they started it up with a couple other people I didn't know. And they had a drummer come in and it didn't work out. So they asked me, and I was pretty busy at the time, but they kept bugging me. So I went out and I had a practice with them. And it sounded really good. We were an 8-piece band. Anyway, we did the show. We did the whole Rumors album, and then we did a few of the other big hits. Plus, we did just a random set of covers in a very small club. Anyway, we were so well received that we decided to carry it on and
Okay.
grow. Some of the members left right after because they were just committed to that one
That show.
album. So we brought in some different personnel, and we went from an 8-piece down to now a 7-piece band. The
Okay.
lineup that we've had now for the last 7.5 years has been the same 7 people.
Okay.
And we don't play. We started to really develop a following in the Ottawa Valley area. Not even trying, not promoting, not doing anything. Our shows just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now we only play a few a year. 2 of the members live out in British Columbia now, so they only fly home every now and then. We just did some back in the spring. We just put on shows and we sell them. We bring hundreds of people out. They sell out like this. We're very well received. People keep telling us we should be, touring the band. And I would love to. I basically run the back end of the band. I do primarily the bookings, the contracts, the technical writers. I deal with, booking the venues, the payouts, everything. It just kind of fell on my lap because I don't know. I kind of enjoy that element, and I'm pretty organized and ambitious with booking my own shows with a lot of other bands too. To make a living as a drummer, I can't just sit and wait for the phone to call or to ring. I have to go out there every day. I work on booking shows, right? I'm booking shows into next year already. You know what I mean? So, I booked our band Big Love, which is the Fleetwood. I've already booked us into next May. So I booked in advance, and it's a lot of fun. Really great singers in that band. It's fun to put on a persona of playing another drummer's parts, Mick Fleetwood. So I try to stay true to his parts, but I also put my own personality into the playing. I'm not trying to carbon copy exactly what he does. And I don't feel anybody should do that, even in a tribute setting, unless you're playing Rush, where everybody's listening to you can't make one note different. But in a Fleetwood Mac or a different type of project, I also played in a big Pink Floyd tribute band a few years ago that was internationally known. And, again, doing the parts of Mason, again, I would stay true to the parts as much as I could, but I would deviate and, some of the fills, I would put my own spin on them and my own feel, right? So that it felt like I was presenting the music the right way, but also gratifying myself and putting my own playing style that I've worked over 3 decades, to do. So I've kind of found that happy medium. I love doing tribute stuff. It's a lot of fun and it's very challenging.
Yeah, it's kind of trendy too right now. Trendy, but in the good way. Before you had tribute maybe a few years ago, not that great, but now the people they really play well the tribute. I have a friend, Philip. He do a lot of tribute to Queen or like the Beach Boy, whatever. He has like a couple of projects like that, and all the musicians are top notch. They're super good. So it's pretty good for the customer. They pay a ticket to see a show. It's not the band, it's a tribute, but they have a high quality show. Like at the end.
And you know what? The other reason I think it works is that, I don't know if you've gone to a big arena or stadium concert in the last while, but they are almost impossible to afford to go to.
So very expensive, like 100, 200, 300.
Yeah, I was at Metallica in Montreal a little over a week ago, and we were way up at the top. They were $300 a seat, right?
Yeah.
So, fine, but that's why I think tribute bands work. You can come out and see, hopefully a high quality show for, 10% of that and still get good entertainment close to home. So, and they're fun to do. And it's just part of what I do. Covers, tributes. I also have original stuff that I do also. So I like to have all of those things on the go. I love playing covers. I love doing originals. I've got a new project, the Nate Silva Trio. There's an EP that's out, it's going to be released in the next couple of months. It's done. It's sort of a hard rock, high energy, hard rock power trio kind of thing. So that's Nate Silva. You can, keep it for anybody who's listening out there, keep an eye out for it. I think it's really good stuff. I didn't write it, so I can say I think that it's very good. And really looking forward to bringing that to the stage, in the upcoming months. So that's the things I have on the go right now. I haven't had an original project on the go for a while. COVID kind of shut everything down like it did with a lot of people.
Yep.
But now the original stuff is starting to develop and unfold. And definitely by the fall into next year, I'm going to be pretty busy doing that, probably touring that project as well.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And what's the plan? Is like touring, like mostly like around town, or you want to go a bigger city like Toronto and
We'll do probably Toronto, down the as a lot of musicians in Ontario call it the 401 tour.
Yep, yeah, yeah,
Right? Montreal all the way to Southern Ontario. I mean, the great thing about living where I live, and as you know, growing up in near Montreal and things like that,
yep,
Canada's a big, it's a large place to tour, to negotiate and get around and travel. Very expensive.
yep,
Living here, over a third of the population of Canada is within a 5-hour drive of where I live. So I
yeah,
can go, I can play to a large amount of people and still be home within a few days, and not have to be gone for a month at a time, which touring is so expensive these days with hotels that have tripled in price. You have fuel
yes,
has gone up 50%. Food to eat out, it's almost doubled in certain cases, right? So to tour, you hear a lot about big bands having to cancel parts of their tour because they didn't sell enough tickets, and they're going to lose money.
doing the shows.
Big bands.
Yeah,
So
I
I
know.
mean, bands
It's
to go on the road, it's so expensive now.
yeah, it's impressive. McDonald's start to be a luxury restaurant now. So when you think about that, it's expensive. You
Yeah,
go to McDonald's now.
I know.
Back in the days, you
So
have the $2 deal. You would have French fries, a burger. Now you one person, you're around the $20. Like so it's you have to
I
think
know
about
to
that.
eat terrible food on the road, which you don't want to do very often.
Yep,
You need to stay, have energy and feel healthy when you're on the road as well, right? Especially as you get older, like me. I can't be out there eating McDonald's every night and washing it down with soda and beer every night. You can't keep up. Playing drums is a physically demanding instrument, and you're not just a drummer on stage. You're a performer. You have to put out energy and enthusiasm to the audience
all-
who paid money and put time out of their busy schedule to see you play. So you got to be a
totally.
performer. You got to try to look your best and play your best, right? You can't be eating things like that either when you're on the road. So it's yeah.
No, it's
But
part.
anyway, yeah, for me, touring will probably within a few hours of Ottawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good what you were saying about food because I know a lot of project I'm working with. They not at the time, but I worked with. They they were really adding that in their contract, like no pizza, no spaghetti, and they were like, we want vegetables, fruits, good meat, things like that. I'm saying that for the people they're listening. It might sound funny, but when like you just says like when you start a tour, let's say you do a 3 weeks tour, you start from Montreal, you finish in Niagara Falls. um, at the beginning it's okay pizza, but after 3 weeks you need the proteins and that energy factor coming. So if you eat bad,
Oh
you will have
yeah.
those effects fast. And I remember when I did a tour, one of our sponsor was Tim Horton, and I don't have any problem with Tim Hortons, but the point is like they were bringing us donuts and coffee and those stuff every morning. And at some point we said, okay, perfect, thank you for the helping us the tour with renting cars and stuff, but the food is nice, but now we cannot. It's not because we don't like your food, we just cannot. So and they
Yeah,
were
you
like they
can't
were
every now and then you can't keep up with that. Your health is really important. In all aspects of life, but as an entertainer, you need to have your energy and your health, and you need to look presentable on stage. I think too, to the best of your ability, right?
yeah,
So
and so
people
yeah,
are paying
and
money to see you as a performer on stage.
yep,
You got to be something worth. You can't just sound good. You got to present the show properly, right? And things like proper rest and nutrition. It's
yep.
important all the time, but on the road it's harder, right?
It's harder. It's yeah, it's a big problem sometimes. And yeah,
Oh yes.
I know people when they're vegan or vegetarian, whatever, they really can depend where you are. Like but some countries it's hard to find food without meat, for example. So you need to eat very well and have options.
Oh
Now a lot
yeah.
of restaurants have that veggie option, but at the same time it can be very hard on a tour. unfortunately.
Absolutely, I agree. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's
Uh,
I'm probably going to be touring in the upcoming months for a little bit, and I'm reminding myself of what I need to do when I'm on the road to the best of my ability,
yeah.
and keep the costs down also, right? So yes.
Yeah. What is one question you said? I'm thinking about that to be on tour. What are the pieces you like to have in doubles for if you have a breakable or something? Do you have like, let's say, two pair of in-ears? You have like a two snare? Are you the guy you have like three bass drum heads? What are your thing? You're really picky. You really like, you need a backup if something happened. What are those accessories normally you have with you?
Well, I have an old cymbal bag, and I
Yep.
put one of each drum head in there
Okay. Yeah.
as back, but I usually put old ones in, right? Ones
Yep.
that have worn down, but they're still okay in an emergency. So I
Yep.
have a kick, a snare, and the toms. But I also every show I go to, I at least bring two snare drums.
Yep.
Most shows I play, I use two snares in my setup. Typically, I'll have one on the left side of the hi hat, maybe a 12 or a 13. Turn it off like a timbali, or put
Yep.
a mute pad on it to give it like a big, deep, swampy sound to get two different. But it's
Yeah.
also a backup snare. If I break my main one on stage, I don't have time to change the head. I can take the side one and put it here and get through the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I do. Aside from that, I always bring, lots of drumsticks. I probably have too many drumsticks on stage. I'm just paranoid about that kind of thing. I bring, if I have to bring my own microphones and cables, sometimes I
Yep.
do. I always have one or two extra spare XLR cables. Always one extra microphone that more than I need. I always
Yeah.
carry a Shure SM57 that I never use in
In case
case
of.
one microphone goes. I can stick that in and be safe. Also,
Yep.
things like I always make sure I have lots of drum keys, extra cymbal stand felts, the
Yep.
cymbal toppers like the wing nuts. I keep a little survival bag of that stuff. I always carry too, if I'm on the road, a 6-inch practice pad and a pair of sticks that go in the hotel room. Maybe I'll
Yep.
use it that
Maybe
night.
not.
Maybe I won't, but I bring it along anyway. My intention
Yep.
is always to practice, but I don't always do.
Yep.
And that's sort of what I bring on the road with me in terms of gear. Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's
I
important
like to
because
have more than I need.
exactly, because you never know where you're gonna be, but you will know, but you don't know what accessibility you will have. Now in Canada, in US, we have a lot of stores like Guitar Center in the US, Long and McCoy in Canada. I mean, we have more store than that. But my point is like the franchisee like a restaurant, where you can find
Yeah.
McDonald's everywhere. Now you have Long and McCoy, you can find them everywhere in whatever city. But like Dave Drum Shop in Ottawa, like Steve Music, Timpano. Yeah, there's a lot. Like I can name it. They are a great store, so you can always find a store with a lot of things close to you. But the point is, like, normally you play at night, and for the people that are listening right now, like if you break something at the gig, most of the time the store is closed. It's gonna be cool for your gig tomorrow, but sometimes you don't even have the time to go, because if you have to drive 3 4 hours, sometimes store open at 10, you're screwed. So that's why you need to have those parts backup. I always tell my student and my like fellow drummers, also try to bring sizes stuff makes sense. Like I mean, like a 22 bass drum, for example, a 12-inch tom. But so if you go like odd with a 15 floor tom, it's cool, but maybe you won't find a 15 drum head in all the stores. So it sometimes when you go with off size or like weird thing, it's not cool. It's just harder to find and have an accessibility to that. So bring those heads with you, or whatever it is with you, for be sure you can have a replacement.
Oh yeah,
So
especially if you're using a 15-inch floor tom or some weird thing, right?
yep.
Have one of those around. But kicks and snare heads primarily. I mean, if you go through a tom head in a show, you could probably make do with whatever. If you have two or three toms, you could probably get by. But if you don't have a kick or a snare, it's
Yeah,
over.
it's
So
over. Yeah.
I always have a separate snare, even if I'm using only one on my setup. I always have one in the case beside me at all times. There's a bass drum head at all times, no matter what. right?
It's
And
super
lots of
important.
sticks, always lots of sticks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
know
big
what?
time.
For me, is a I had clutch. I have always a backup because if I don't have one day I did a gig and the clutch wasn't in my bag and it stayed home. So when I show up, I have a hi-hat stand, but don't ask where was the clutch for this one. So I didn't have a hi-hat clutch, so I have to close the hat. I put a tape like
Oh
for keep
yeah,
it down the most as possible,
that is the
and
worst.
yeah, that's it.
I That's another thing I should in my stick bag. I keep an extra clutch.
Yeah,
Always,
yeah,
always an extra clutch, and just a basic one. Not I use kind of
yeah.
a custom made one on my set. It looks very nice. My name is engraved in it from
Okay,
Sweet Spot Clutches out in British Columbia.
okay.
They took good care of me. But I keep just a basic Gibraltar or a Dixon cheap one in my stick bag. If something were to if it were to break or I lose it or whatever it is, I've got one. There's nothing worse than not having a high. I've done the taped hi hats before. It's not fun. You
No, I know.
don't
I
want
just
to
a
do that.
fun,
You don't want to do that
just a
to me.
funny fact before I forget. You were talking about the. I'm just back on track with the Fleetwood Mac. Mike Fleetwood. He came at the show I was playing in back in Los Angeles or San Francisco, and he's so
Mick
tall, and
Fleetwood came to your show.
yeah, he came at my show. He came to see the show. So I saw him from where I was in my studio.
Wow.
So after a show, they asked me to go down. And the guy's super shy. He was so shy. Like, I mean, he was because I talked with him we had a discussion with him with the guitar player. And I think by memory was the bass player. I'm not so sure. We were like three musicians, but he was very shy, impressed about what we did during that show. So, but for us, we're impressed by him. It was very funny, dynamic. But and it was I don't remember
Wow.
which year, but I think it's when DW launched his signature snare. I think it was that year.
Yeah, I
So I
remember
think
that one.
2016, 15. I don't remember. So anyway, it was
Yeah,
just a
around
funny
there.
fact that
Yeah,
so that
because
so shake hands. So
my tribute band was taking off at that point.
okay.
And I remember when that
Well,
snare came out, a bunch of people were like, "You're going to get that snare, right? You're in the tribute band." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to get the. I'm not going to get the
uh,
$2,000 snare. It's not going to sound anymore like Fleetwood Mac. It's a cool drum, and it
it's
would
a
be a
it's a
great drum, but
collector.
I never got. So I think you're right around that.
It's a
But
collector
I heard he
item.
was.
Like
I've heard things. He's a very nice.
super humble, super
He's very tall,
relaxed.
and apparently he's very nice.
Yeah, the nothing to say. It was just a funny
I
fact.
love his
And
playing, by the way.
oh no, he played well. He played very well. Like um, he make him like I mean, all the musician in the Fleetwood play a big part in the band. It's weird to say that, but some
Oh
bands
yeah,
you don't know who's the second guitar player, for example. But him,
that's right.
everybody in the band have their own touch, and that's why they became so popular with the time.
Mick. Nobody sounds like Mick Fleetwood on drums. Nobody plays
No,
like him. He has a
nope,
different
yeah,
way of approaching fills and beats that's very, very cool. It's not that they're technically hard parts at all, but they're
no,
well
no, no,
crafted, played well for the song. And that's what I've always been about as a drummer. I'm not necessarily going to play all the crazy chops, here and there where they're needed, but I like intelligently crafted parts that serve the music. And I'm a rock and pop guy. So
yep.
I'm not looking to shred. I play a four-piece kit mainly. I don't do tons of fast fills. I do them when they're needed, like I said, but I just like, well-crafted parts, leaving the space in between to
Yeah.
allow the lyrics and everything else to sit where they need to be. To me, that's a drummer's first and foremost responsibility is to make the music feel good, play with
Oh
really
yeah.
great time and feel, and serve the music and your dynamics too, right? I tell my students, you don't play at every note at one volume, right? That's like talking the same volume with no emotion all the time. You have to use expression, like when you're happy and when you're angry and when you're sad and when you're scared and you're excited. You speak differently and you use different mannerisms. You have to do that on the drums. It's harder to do than a piano or a guitar or your voice because you can put your emotion into that easier. With drums, you have to watch your dynamics, right? And your
Totally.
internal dynamics, right? Not everything is at the same volume all the time, and the bass drum isn't always the same volume as the snare drum, and the hi-hat sometimes has to be louder or quieter than what there's all these things that I work on with students, that it's all those little things that make a difference in your sound. Why does
Big
that
time.
guy sound better playing a basic beat than this
Yep.
guy? They're the
Yep.
same beat at the same speed, but they sound different. Why?
Uh,
It's all those little things that
yep.
make the big. You gotta use your ears, right?
Dynamics. Big
That's
dynamics.
my philosophy as a drummer, you know?
It's a very good philosophy, because look at that. Think about that. Let's take something easy. Led Zeppelin, something everybody heard about. John Bonham. Uh, some records, they had one microphone. Okay,
Yeah.
and yes, he has big drums, but it's not because he has big drums. It was bashing his drum all the time. John Bonham has a lot of dynamics.
Oh yeah.
So we have a lot of ghost notes and stuff going on there. A lot of recording right now have so much compression. It's a big line. It's a big chunk black
Oh yeah.
going on Pro Tool, and it's compressed, and the dynamics are almost none, because the compressor will bring the lowest higher and the higher lower. So for the people, they understand that. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with that, so it's a very good example why these drummers were so good at the time and still now, because they have a big vocabulary and big way to make dynamics and bring the feeling. uh, Sometimes you will listen to one recording from the 70s. They didn't have click track. so so they have emotion, and it's gonna speed up a little bit. Just Slayer, like the
Yeah.
Lombardo, like back in the days. There's I think it's Season the Abyss by memory. It start at whatever tempo and it finished like 15, 20 BPM faster later. But
But
the
it, but
guy
it was
was feeling
it
it,
was
you know.
perfect.
It
It
was
was
perfect for
perfect.
the yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And even a
Exactly.
drummer like that who's playing crazy heavy stuff, he had a lot of dynamics in his playing.
Yeah,
Lots of
yeah,
dynamics, building, ghost notes, everything in thrash metal, right?
yeah,
and,
yeah. In
and
thrash
great
metal.
feel and everything. And again, so it's not just for jazz drummers or rock
No,
drummers or metal drummers. Your dynamics and your feel and everything like that. It doesn't matter what style you play. You need to learn these things, right? And you can't
it's
just
super
rely on the
important.
studio making you sound good. There's something to be said for having the pride and sounding good. Playing a full take on the drums, that's a keeper in the studio. What a
Yeah,
concept that would be, a front to back take. You don't hear that very much anymore. But I like
yeah,
that. When I do session
yeah.
work for people in my studio here, I try to send them one continuous take. And if it's not good all the way through, I work on it until it is. And that's what I give them. I'm old
It's
school
smart.
like that. I like a front to back take. That's what I like to do. If I'm working with a producer, they don't want that. You do what the job requires. But if it's I'm
It's
being hired and I'm engineering the drums here, this is what I give my clients. I send them a front to back, no edits take whenever I
a
can.
raw, a
You know?
good raw file. Like anyway,
Yeah.
if you have a good source, like good, it doesn't need to be the best microphone. By the way, it can be just a good way to get the capture of the sound, and a good playing will work probably more than having the best microphone with someone
Oh yeah.
not giving a good source at the end for treating all the rest in the
Yeah. If
computer.
you have, if you have good sounding drums that are tuned well and you know how
Oh
to
yeah,
hit them properly in a
yep,
room that sounds decent, the
yep,
microphones are almost secondary, right?
kind of.
You don't have
And
to
yeah,
spend a lot of money on microphones. That's a good thing that you're bringing up. I have some good microphones, but I don't have the best studio microphones out there. And I get good sounding recordings here that I'm very happy. I have nice, beautiful Stoner drums, and I figure I can tune them pretty well, and I know how to hit them, and I can draw a good sound out of my instrument, in my opinion, and I can get a good raw recording that I can
yep.
send to an engineer or a producer, and they can mix them and they can add their own stuff on them after if they want. But I just send them a nice, clean, flat file of what I do, and everybody seems to be content with it. So that's what I like to do. I like to hang on
That's
to
a
that artistic side of it. I don't need, if it's just cut and pasting bars after bars, you don't need me then. because that's not going to be my personality in the playing. It's not going to be there.
Yeah, you can at this point you're gonna go like with sound replacement in
Yeah,
this part. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you
exactly.
can do whatever back. You can even just do your prop like you own recording, but drum per drum, like a superior drummer will do with an electronic drum,
That's right.
and everybody can play on top of it. But it's very common right now in pop music and rock music to do that.
Oh yeah,
They will they will say, okay, let's do that. Let's take the a Pearl Master drum we like from a studio back in time in New York, and they played by Kim Plainfield, let's say, when he was at teacher over there. So, and they will take the drum sound and they will do whatever they want with it. It's very for pop music. If you don't care about dynamic much, feels like just a good feel. There's million of bank of recording and sound now, but the point is like you said, for creating and doing like a more organic project, I think I agree with you. It's nice to have a one track from A to B without cutting and adding
yeah.
stuff on it. Me and this the producer, like you were mentioning, ask for like tracks
If you
like
can,
part per
yeah.
part. Just do part per part. It's another way to do. But the point is like A to B for me too. I like it. It's hard. It's hard, but it's good.
It
Hey,
is
the time
harder, but that,
flies.
that's the music I grew up.
No,
I grew
sorry.
up
Go ahead.
listening
I
to
don't.
music that was that, right.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
grew. That's the music I listened to growing up, so that's the way I wanted to do it. And you got to embrace the modern technology and everything else, and sometimes that's what is required. But I never want to, lose that art form of just being able to play real live drums in a recording.
Yeah.
Even if they're not perfect. It's the
Yep.
perfection is in the imperfections. It's your personality that goes into your sound, right?
Totally. Yeah. Hey, the
I
time
love that.
flies, Matt. It's almost done. Sorry,
Yeah.
we could talk not to an hour more, but
Well, it's
a
been a
bit,
pleasure. It's been a lot of fun hanging out and just talking shop and all this stuff. It's been a blast. Yeah.
we will repeat. We'll do a part two next year.
Hey,
No
you never
problem.
know. Anytime I probably have hours of stuff that I could talk. I could talk drums for years. So I'd love to do it again
Well,
down the road if that was ever something you wanted to do in a year or two or whatever it is. You don't be shy. I'm here. I'll be sitting
yeah,
here
that's
again
cool.
like this.
But well, actually, about that, for last question is where the people can reach you if they want to take lessons with you or they want to hire
Yeah.
you as a session. Where what's the best way to contact you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, which is West End Drummer. That which is also my email, West End Drummer. It just stands for what, like the West End of Ottawa. West End Drummer at gmail.com. That's how you can reach me for anything. I'm finally getting with the times. I started a YouTube channel. There's not much on there yet. I literally just got it going. I don't know why I delayed on this. It's just under my name, Matt Babineau. I'm posting a little bit of content. I've got some drum videos up there. My contact information is on there as well. If you want to give me a follow on there, I have some original stuff, some cover things, just a few drum lick videos and things like that on there. If you want to take the time and check it out, I'd appreciate it. That's how you can
Yeah.
reach me, though. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Matt, for your time. It was amazing to talk with you. You're an amazing player, a good person. So
I
I
appreciate
wish.
coming from you, Eric. That's a big compliment. I love your playing as well.
Well,
So,
thank you.
and I'm glad you're doing well in the industry and everything else. And I can't wait to see to see more of your. I'm going to be watching a lot of your YouTube channel now. All the different interviews you have. You do a great show, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah, well, you're in it right now. So I
Yeah,
thank you so much. I wish you a good luck and
I appreciate that.
keep in touch. Keep in touch
I
and good
will.
and I have a safe tour and be safe on your next tours.
Appreciate that, Eric. Thanks again.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye bye. Bye. Thanks to Matt. I think we talk about a lot of cool things today about touring and things to take care of when you're on the road. So if you want more information, contact him directly. there's a chat right here. You can leave your comments. If you don't know like how to reach him, don't like you can contact us directly by email. You can also go on drumfillscafe.com, and someone from our team will answer you. So from there, the next interview will be with Dennis. Dennis is the other host, so we're like two-person, like two hosts for the Drumfills Cafe in English. If you have any doubt about what we do, what is this, which artists we have, I'm not sure. Same place, drumfills.com is the place. Drumfillscafe.com is the place to go. So thank you so much and see you next week.